This Week in Startups is brought to you by GoToMeeting. Meeting is believing. Visit GoToMeeting.com. Click the Try It Free button and sign up for a 30-day trial. And Walker Corporate Law, a boutique law firm specializing in the representation of entrepreneurs. Visit them at walkercorporatelaw.com.
That's what it's all about, man. They said money is the root of all evil. What? Funny how it feeds my people. Yeah. We ain't gonna live like equals until we get the money, spend the money, and defeat you. Yeah. Money is the root of all evil. What? Funny how it feeds my people. Yeah. We ain't gonna live like equals until we get the money, spend the money, and defeat you.
Okay, let's bring Brogan and Shervin out. Everybody's been super psyched about the Hyperloop. Please welcome Shervin and Brogan from Hyperloop. All right. No, Brogan, founder, investor at the end.
No, we're co-founders.
Oh, co-founder, okay. Yeah. Great to see you. Shervin, looking good. Where's the other half of you?
Good to see you.
I lost
What happened? My God, how many?
My beard fell off, my hair fell off, I lost 60 pounds.
60 pounds. Big round of applause for that. My God.
I only did it because it'll make Hyperloop faster. Yeah,
so. Yeah, we were talking about the drag issue.
Yeah, exactly.
Shervin.
It's a lot of drag.
Okay. Brogan, you worked at SpaceX for a bit with the man.
I did.
And at some point at SpaceX, Elon, I guess, didn't have enough to do with the Tesla and the space project, and he said, let's build a tube. How did this thing start, this whole Hyperloop conversation? Do you remember the moment Elon started talking about this?
You know, he really did that on his own. I think Shervin actually has more of the origin story. Elon knows no fences for sure, and when there's a problem, there should be a solution. So maybe you can give some of the backstory of how you came to Hyperloop.
All mutual friends with Elon, and we had a trip in 2013 where Elon and I and another friend, we went to Cuba, which was
Sean Penn, your third friend.
In fact, I didn't say, but it was a very cool trip, and on the way there, and we were going specifically to work on there was an American who has been in prison for 8 years at the time, so we were kind of volunteering to help, and
to help an American who was in prison in Cuba.
Right. So
no need to send the CIA. We sent Elon
exactly.
and Sean Penn.
Exactly.
I'm glad you guys went on this trip, not the one to get the drug dealer on the lam.
No. Luckily, I missed that one.
You missed that one. Yeah, it's good.
So on the way there, on the flight, at the time, the white paper was not out. Elon had mentioned the idea. And I asked him about it and was very interested in it. And specifically, one, he said he's too busy, trying to make SpaceX happen and make the human species interplanetary, and build Tesla and Solar City. He's got 5 kids, and he's too busy to actually build Hyperloop. Was thinking of open sourcing it and doing the white paper and releasing it out, which I thought was a cool idea. The question I had was, could this work for cargo? And cargo seemed like the best business model. To be able to move cargo at 700 miles per hour, you could actually introduce huge changes in the global economy, change inventory financing forever, push a button on demand, actually manufacture and distribute and deliver all within a 48-hour to 72-hour period of time. So that would compress inventory finance and get rid of warehouses full of inventory that's depreciating in value, and also unlock huge areas of our planet to economic development.
Okay, so let's play this clip here. We have the intro to the Hyperloop. I don't know if it has sound or you're going to talk over it, but maybe Brogan, you could tell us a little bit about the technology while they pull up the video. Explain to us, and here comes the video. Yeah, it doesn't have sound, right? Perfect. So why don't you talk over this a little bit and tell us what we're seeing and how it works.
Yeah, one of the things that is super important, we're trying to educate people, is we are building this. The original white paper is brilliant. The system level architecture really is a new form of transportation. But we've taken that And we started really over from scratch. We started looking at cargo and passengers, and now we're building the hardware. So a lot of the hardware you're seeing in this video are some test equipment we have at our Los Angeles facility. We built our own wind tunnel, so we can test low Reynolds number, high speed, flow, low pressure. We built our own levitation test rig, so we can validate our testing technology. That's the levitation test rig right there. I don't know why we show that little tube. So we're really building the physical hardware. We're doing the hardcore engineering in some core areas to bring this technology home.
And now, how does it work in terms of, on a technology basis? I think we all know there's a tube, and the air is taken out of the tube to reduce friction. And that's where my knowledge of the Hyperloop, and full disclosure, I'm an investor. Thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Got my little piece. So tell me, how does this technology work beyond we take the air out of the tube?
Right. So actually, there's still some air in the tube,
okay,
which is one of the brilliances of the architectures. It's not a hard vacuum. If it were a hard vacuum, we could go faster and there'd be less friction, but it's a potentially catastrophic failure mechanism. So
wait. What is catastrophic failure mechanism?
Well, if you engineer a system to have zero air and there is any leak, it would be bad, generally.
Bad meaning explosion?
No, but we haven't really done a lot of work on that. But energetically bad, aerodynamically bad. So when you engineer a system to operate in very low pressure, then a leak, you end up with a very robust system because we can assume over a multi-hundred kilometer set of tubes, you're going to have a little leak. So now you just either use a little bit more energy or you go a little slower. So we feel we have a really robust overall system. So we have electromagnetic propulsion that accelerates the vehicle. Also, because of the low drag, you really give it a discrete acceleration and then you coast for a long time. So that's part of the innovation to really bring the capital expenditures down. It's not fully powered, you give it discrete pushes.
Just think about all the time and effort and money you spend going to meetings, going across town, getting stuck in traffic from Palo Alto all the way up to San Francisco, out to Oakland, traveling across the country, going to Seattle, going down to LA, back to New York. It is exhausting, and it is a waste of time and money. Most meetings could occur with the help of GoToMeeting, and they would occur flawlessly. I know because I do these meetings all the time. In fact, I've been meeting with a dozen entrepreneurs every week over GoToMeeting, back to back to back, recording these meetings and sharing them back with the entrepreneurs as I give them feedback for when they come to the launch festival in March 2nd, 3rd, and 4th, in fact. And I can only do with GoToMeeting because everybody can use any product they have, computer, tablet, smartphone, doesn't matter what operating system, it just works everywhere. And it is HD quality with perfect HD sound and the ability to share screens. And it never hiccups, it never has bandwidth problems, it just always works. And that to me is the key. You know, if you're gonna do these kind of virtualized meetings, they can't be breaking up and they can't have poor fidelity. They have to be perfect. So here is your call to action. This is what I want you to do right now. I want you to go to GoToMeeting.com and try it free for 30 days. There is nothing to lose. Visit GoToMeeting.com and click the Try It Free button. Do it now and have your first meeting up and running in minutes. It literally works so simple that I have like a little Google Calendar Chrome extension where it puts a GoToMeeting button every time I create a meeting, and I just press boop, GoToMeeting, and it generates a code, gives everybody the code, everybody knows the link, boom, and it just works. So go ahead and go to GoToMeeting.com and get your free 30-day trial. It's a great product. I've been using it for years. I love it. It's a pleasure for me to read an ad about GoToMeeting because I don't have to read it because I use it. It's literally on the list of my top 10, 20 products that I use every week. It just makes me super efficient in meeting with entrepreneurs. So thanks to our friends at GoToMeeting. And if you're a super fan of the show, go ahead and thank at GoToMeeting on Twitter. They love to see your support of the program. Okay, let's get back to this episode. So you give it a push through some electromagnetic push?
Correct.
And then is it on a rail, or is it like a train? Or
we have
how do I think about it?
A sub-track, a levitation track that we ride on. So the levitation is non-contact, the propulsion is non-contact, very energy efficient, very low maintenance. So when you kind of add up all the elements of the system, you end up with this sort of energy elegant way to move people and cargo
So the pod is floating above the track.
Correct.
But not touching, obviously, any of the tube.
Correct.
How do you keep it from bumping into the tube? What's the science there of keeping it perfectly in the center of the tube?
The key is, which I recommend to all startups, is hire a lot of really smart people.
Okay.
So this is a controls problem. It's really not that hard. We do have some great people. A couple of our controls guys worked on an airborne laser program for the government, which is a 747, which has a 1-foot diameter laser that flies around, and they did the controls to steady the laser through turbulence and lift, and so.
So that magnet, the electromagnetic, is keeping it floating in the perfect space?
Right, so we're using a passive maglev system. Likely we're looking at a few levitation systems, but our favorite is a passive maglev, so it's completely unpowered.
So it's like a train, the maglev trains, in a way, but in a tube, is how we should think about it?
Yeah, we're trying to distance ourselves from that analogy because one of the elements that we're providing is we're packetizing it. So instead of sending a long unit, you can think about sending, instead of 600 people on one train, you can now send 20 units of 30 people each. So you can send them directly to their destination. You can match capacity demands. So it's really more, we think of more like the internet.
Has anybody ever done this science before? In other words, has this existed in some format, like some tube exists to send mail, like when we see in the old movies, people would send mail through a tube?
Pneumatic tubes.
Pneumatic tubes. Is it similar in some way to that, or not at all?
Well, I think we're taking pieces of technology that exist and putting them together in this particular architecture arrangement. Now, mind you, we're innovating very heavily, but we're innovating to bring the cost down. We could build Hyperloop today. It would be very expensive. So the work we're doing is to make this super, super value price.
I see a tube out there, Shervin. Thanks for dropping it off.
Yeah.
I'm gonna give it back because I don't have anywhere to keep it. It was a very nice gift, but backyard's too small. But how much does it cost to make one of those, or how much will it cost at scale? And then how many of those per mile? And in other words, hey, 300 miles between here and Los Angeles. Give us an idea of what it's going to cost just in the tubes.
Right. Well, just in terms of, as Brogan talked about, is the innovation is around getting the cost as low as possible. So that's a continual evolution that we're working on. The things that's interesting, just in the steel costs the most in terms of what our costs are. And so we have an innovation around how to basically design the tube in a way that would cost about 70% less than the existing design you see out there.
A couple notes. First of all, we are taking that tube back because that's not a showpiece. That's actually part of a full system that we're building. So we literally pulled that tube from our test site, brought it here, and it's going to go back and get welded in. So we're building a full-scale, full-speed test loop that's going to begin operation this year.
Whoa. In 2016, there'll be a Hyperloop somewhere in
Nevada.
Test operated in Nevada. Yeah. How many of those sections long will it be?
Oh, of those, I think 260 or something.
And that seems to be like a city block almost?
So well, overall, we're going to end up, in the near term, we're going to have about 3 kilometers worth of straight length to test our system
That's
full speed.
Full scale, and we'll get to full speed at some point.
And I also want to address the innovation side of it. That tube out there is sort of our minimum viable product for a test loop, but that's actually how not to build a Hyperloop in production, because it's an inefficient use of steel. It's pretty expensive. We're using it for our test unit because we can get it very quickly. We're innovating to take 70% of the cost out of that when we go to production.
And you'll also have something inside of it. What's the state of the car inside of it? I saw Elon had some sort of competition for the
student competition. Yeah.
What are they called inside? The pods?
Pods. We're calling them pods.
Okay, so he had a pod competition. Was there something, and you guys were there, I'm assuming, was there something amazing that came out of that student competition for the pods?
What was amazing was 1,100 amazingly brilliant students focused on building Hyperloop pods. Really amazing work there. We're sponsoring a bunch of those teams. I don't think we've quite announced that formally. So we're going to be sponsoring a lot of the student teams that are building these pods. We're going to be hiring them. We've actually already hired a couple.
That was confirmation that Hyperloop is a movement, and it's something that's inspired people from around the world. And so we're a company, and we have 120 9 full-time employees now, a 2.5-acre campus. But outside of that, there is so much support and goodwill and people wanting to contribute and help. And that's seeing those students, 1,000 students, and the energy there was pretty incredible.
Okay, so when is your estimate for the first Hyperloop existing for cargo in the world, Shervin, and when do you think the first one for humans will exist?
I think the first operational, the goal is 2020 to have a operational
4 years from now
project. Yeah, the tests are really important because that's our Kitty Hawk moment, and it'll show the world that this system works. And we have a video from Nevada.
Yeah, can we play the second video?
Let's play the summertime video.
There was
from the actual site in Nevada.
Oh, here we go.
Summertime and the living's easy. Oh, there it is.
Very nice.
Yeah.
This is our test site in North Las Vegas.
Holy shit, it's real.
Holy shit, it's real. It's right.
Nobody's seen this, right?
No.
First time.
First time.
We got the equipment, we got the tubes. We're starting to build real hardware out in North Las Vegas. It's going to rotate. You're going to see our whole site where we're starting to run the test. That looks like Hyperloop country.
Wow.
So we got a mobile command center, we got our power electronics building, we got a lot of tube, and then that is 1/20th of the tube that we're going to have by the summer.
How much money is it going to take you, Shervin, because you're good at raising money. How much money do you have to raise to make the Hyperloop a reality? This is a capital-intensive project, is it not?
Yeah, so the Series A was a big Series A. It was 11 million to get everything off the ground, and we have a picture of the garage where it was started in Brogan's backyard.
Yeah, we'll show that in a minute.
And so that 11 million was led by Joe Lonsdale, but a bunch of investors like David Sachs, who had joined the board at that time, Jim Messina, Sherpa Capital, which I co-founded with Scott Stanford, who's somewhere here, co-led it with Joe. And then the Series B is happening now. We're raising, we've kind of announced it before in terms of the fact that we were raising it, but it'll be 70 million plus that will fund everything you just saw. So the initial test, the propulsion open air test by the end of April, and then the Kitty Hawk moment, the full scale test at the end of the year. That's a lot of capital, but this is a moonshot idea, and the implications are pretty big. And so part of it is you need to have backers who are courageous enough to believe in something like this. And I think Elon, also changed the world in showing that, and he had to be courageous in terms of funding it himself, right? You look at SpaceX, Tesla. He saved those companies multiple times by almost going broke. And one of the insights from us is, we're in a garage a year, 3 months ago, and now you just saw all the things that are actually real.
Yeah, we signed the lease on that Nevada test site December 8th.
Yeah.
So that's about 2 months we've done all that work.
Exactly, and what it proves is that we're living in a time where the kind of evolution of skills and knowledge and insights and resources and access to capital are in a place where an idea that big can actually be executed in real time, where you can go from 0 stage to an actual physical site and test in a Kitty Hawk moment within a 24-month period, and that's exciting. But you've got to be able to have the resources and the capital to execute on, and that's what we've done. So
I remember talking to Elon about this originally. He was just absolutely livid that we were going to spend $30 billion or so on the high-speed rail between 70 now, yeah. So 70 billion between here and Los Angeles, and it was going to take 3 hours or 4 hours to get there.
Yeah.
It was going to go 100 miles an hour.
Right.
And it wasn't going to even put you in the city, and the ticket price would be more than or the same as flying.
Yeah.
So it wouldn't be any faster than flying, and it would cost the same. Hey everybody, let me stop for a moment. this amazing episode and tell you about the Walker Corporate Law Group. Yes, they are a boutique law firm that specializes in the representation of entrepreneurs and startups. And Scott Walker is the founder of that company, and he is a personal friend of mine, and he does a great job working with startups. I have literally introduced him to dozens, maybe hundreds now, of startups, and they all rave about the services of the Walker Corporate Law Group because their lawyers have decades of experience. You're not going to get junior associates who are getting on-the-job training with your startup. No. They're going to help you with mergers and acquisitions, licensing, terms of service, privacy policies, formation, all this kind of stuff, fundraising, and they're really great at it. And they do fixed fees. They don't want to surprise people with crazy, crazy bills. They think that billable hours can reward inefficiency, so they'll just be fair with you. And that's what I love about them, because if you're a startup, you don't want to get that sticker shock and get a huge, huge bill. Make sure you use the Walker Corporate Law Group, and you can do that by calling Scott Walker at 415-979-9998. 415-979-9998. You can email him, scott@walkercorporatelaw.com, or you can visit walkercorporatelaw.com as well. Scott@walkercorporatelaw.com, and let Scott Ed Walker on Twitter know, @Scott Ed Walker, know that you watch the program and you appreciate him supporting independent media like This Week in Startups. One of my oldest advertisers, one of my oldest friends in the industry, just a great guy, a total mensch, and he really takes care of the startups who work with him. Thank you, Scott Walker, for supporting This Week in Startups. Bye-bye. What is the government's reaction to the massive progress that we've had here so early on? I know that you guys have been traveling internationally. I don't want to say where, but are there governments around the world who want to put this in their country first, and is our government among them?
The answer to that is yes. There are governments around the world that are interested and excited about working with us. The first conversation with anyone, actually, after the report came out, and there was a good story about how the report came out, but was, I asked Elon permission to go present it to President Obama, and we did, and he had OSTP do the OSTP is Office of Science and Technology policy. They did the diligence and came out with like, well, the science actually checks out. This could work. So gave him an update just last month about all the progress.
You gave POTUS an update.
And talked about everything that we just saw today.
And he also gave you an appointment. You're an ambassador to some... No appointment for you yet?
No, it was a Fulbright board.
You're on the Fulbright board. Yeah. That's kind of an appointment. He put you there.
Yeah. No.
Okay.
Yeah. But, so...
Obama owes you a couple favors. You raised a lot of money for him. How much did you raise for him? 10 million, 20 million?
No idea. I don't know.
You know the exact number.
I don't.
You don't know the number?
No.
Would it be safe to say millions or tens of millions?
Millions, yeah.
Millions of dollars. I mean, you were there at the inauguration.
Yeah. So anyways,
how does Obama feel about it personally? Does he want to see this happen?
Yeah, I mean, I think it doesn't have a lot of time left. So we'll see if it's going to be Trump or Hillary or Sanders or whatever ends up, whoever ends up being president. But I think it most likely will be international as kind of the first places. But we would love to have Hyperloop be in America. And ironically, if you look at the Wright brothers, they tried to sell their technology to the U.S. government and like have it happen. They couldn't, so they sold it to France first. So it was the same story. It's a little slower here. But there's some creative ideas around like, hey, can we use, the analogy we'd use is let's treat Amtrak the way kind of NASA and SpaceX work together. Hyperloop could actually help bring Amtrak and its existing right-of-ways to the 21st century. So you could tunnel underneath look at the Eastern Corridor, and suddenly you can connect Boston, New York, DC, and get up and down in 30, 40 minutes versus hours.
Let's put the slide number 3 up, if they don't mind, the one that shows mountains and underwater. Brogan, how does this, I mean, we all get you could go through a mountain and it's pretty simple, but let's talk a little bit about putting this thing under the ocean.
Let's do it.
It's doable?
It's absolutely doable. I mean, I think right now we're starting to look at some earlier cross-bay and cross-fjord models where the water column is a little more manageable.
Like the channel between France and...
We're doing some engineering. We have a couple specific cases that we're looking at. We have, again, I really recommend hiring really smart people. We've got a great guy out of Stanford with his master's in hydrodynamic modeling, and so we're doing the engineering. We can absolutely deliver it. The question is, can we deliver it on a cost scale that's going to make it worthwhile? We think we can. I don't think our first route will be underwater, but it's coming.
There's shorter term ideas around. If you look at the ports around the world, so Long Beach port, that's about $200 billion of real estate value that's being used as a port. And there's a lot of pollution, a lot of traffic that comes from 8,000 trucks every day going on the highway system, stresses the infrastructure. So one of the ideas is we build an offshore port, like 30, 40 miles off Long Beach, have the ships come in, have a floating offshore port, and then basically shoot out the pods with the cargo outside the city into the desert, have the trucks basically take it out.
Yeah, it's a dry port is a big push where you now you can go directly to Palmdale, where the intermodal connection is, and the beach can be the beach again, and the local neighbors don't have to deal with trucks and pollution. And freeways are very expensive to build for the heavy, high-mass trucks, so there's a lot of value we can deliver.
Is it technically possible to build one of these across a large body of water? In other words, at the end of our lifetime, you guys are going pretty darn fast. At the end of our lifetime, will there be a proposal to have one of these between Long Beach and Shenzhen or Shanghai?
It's really a value proposition. I mean, human beings put a man on the moon in 1969. That's amazing. We can build a Hyperloop from here to Shenzhen. Can we do it and deliver a real value proposition? And that's what we're trying to innovate on, is bringing that cost down.
I did like a cost analysis on putting a man on the moon. What did that actually cost in today's dollars? It's something like $200 billion that was committed and spent on that goal, and a lot of technology.
So less cash than Apple has in the bank.
Yeah, and it was basically like a significant percentage of the GDP at the time. So Kennedy's call to put a man on the moon by the end of the decade inspired a lot of people and inspired a lot of new technologies and changed the world fundamentally. There wasn't any commercial purpose to putting a man on the moon, but those types of moonshot ideas in the context of today are needed, and they're needed badly. Our infrastructure is falling apart.
Ballpark figure, if it's $70 billion to build this broken, horrible, high-speed rail from here to Los Angeles, what would it cost to build a Hyperloop?
We're looking at 16 to 20 billion, which is inclusive of stations, and that's city center to city center.
That's 35 minutes.
35
minutes.
Center
to city center.
So you could literally commute from Los Angeles to here in less time it takes from Palo Alto or Sunnyvale to the city.
We really think about not changing the way people look at distance, but time. We talk about really changing the time factor of how we move people around.
And then the idea of living and working in a place that changes.
All right, you just invited me to this dinner. I was talking just on Twitter, and I was like, this whole problem at Yelp where this, woman wrote how horrible that company is, and Yelp is trying to defend itself and saying, hey, we're moving jobs out of San Francisco because you can't possibly have a $30,000 or $40,000 job in a place where rent is $4,000 a month for a one-bedroom. So we're just going to move those to Arizona. And then you invited me. I got the little invite about some new city dinner.
Yeah.
So is the idea here that we're going to build a Hyperloop to nowhere and then nowhere becomes somewhere?
That's a good way of putting it. I think we have to trademark that, but I'll give you the credit.
Listen, I already got my I got my 50 bips in the company. I'm happy right now. Whatever I got.
So yeah, that's basically from the beginning. The real estate arbitrage concept has been there. And the idea of, and this is a conversation with Joe Lonsdale going back about 7 years, saying, is there in our lifetime the ability to actually build completely new cities, clean cities, new cities, but outside of where people, but what you need a new transportation grid. You need to be able to get things there quicker, more quickly. And so that, with Hyperloop, you basically are now building that grid, and you could take cheap land in upstate New York and build a completely new New York, for example, and then transport people back and forth. But the idea, this is, the car century is coming to an end. Automation is coming, and self-driving cars are coming. So within cities, transportation is going to fundamentally change. And then between cities, Hyperloop can speed everything up.
And just in historical context, every major transportation transformation has done this already, turned somewhere that's nowhere into somewhere that's somewhere. The railways did it. The freeway system absolutely did it. Yeah. The aviation industry did it. So it's just the 21st century.
Las Vegas was the desert.
Yeah.
I mean, we built a highway there and an airport.
Yeah.
What impact is this going to have on air transportation? Will we just only fly in planes for fun and nostalgia, just like we only really ride horses and bugs and those kind of things for nostalgia?
No, I think the next evolution of that is just if you scale up drone technology and you have vertical takeoff, then that becomes interesting, and so we'll see where that goes in terms of within cities. And the airline industry today, I mean, it's not going to look the same at all in 20, 30 years. Most likely kind of shorter distance is going to get disrupted, and long distance will survive for a bit longer until, of course, we're able to put people in orbit and bring them down an hour later somewhere else.
Yeah, airplanes are great. You don't have to build the sky, which is very helpful. But airports take up a lot of real estate. That's why SFO is so hard to get to. So I think there's going to be some real opportunities for us to deliver city center opportunities, but airplanes are great.
How do you guys handle the right-of-way issue with the Hyperloop? I mean, you have to figure out how to put it somewhere. Is it going to be, on the 5 freeway, but just hanging 30 feet in the air on stilts? Are you going to have to dig underground? Is that cost prohibitive? How do you get the right-of-way?
We should talk about tunneling as well.
Yeah, Hyperloop loves tunneling. Our early-term opportunities are not going to be tunneling, but I think in the long term we're really going to move that way. There's a lot of fantastic advantages, right-of-way being a big one. It really gives humans back the landscape, which we're really excited about. Also, it makes any route shorter when you tunnel it. We can go faster. And while the tunnel is expensive, we spend a lot less money on some propulsion and other elements. So we think we're going to be tunneling. In the near term, to answer that question, we're going to try to take advantage of all existing right-of-ways. Because a lot of places, you can't build a new right-of-way into San Francisco. It's very difficult. So think about using existing rail right-of-ways, using existing freeway right-of-ways, using power line right-of-ways. We're open to all those.
Power lines, perfect. You could put the power lines somehow associated with the Hyperloop underground or whatever and do this project. Do the big companies like Google and Apple have an interest in participating in all this? It would seem that for people who are into moonshots like Google with tons of money laying around, this might be something they might want to just put a large swath of money into. And maybe we could have this happen in America. To me, this is insane that we're doing this in Los Angeles, we're doing this in the test track outside of Las Vegas. Like, why is this going to occur outside the United States first? You can't get this done, Shervin, here?
I would love to, but there's, I mean, again, like some of those, that's going to take courage also from policymakers. And the analogy we use is transportation is a new broadband. If you look at broadband policy, governments around the world sped up their regulatory policies to allow the expansion of broadband faster than what they initially had. And that took 3G licenses and auctioning off of airwaves and billions of dollars of investment around the world. That fundamentally changed the world. It allowed Africa to skip over fixed lines to mobile directly, and that's had a huge impact on the African economy and the world. We need governments to be the same, show the same courage and speed up policy. And if U.S. leaders do that, we had the Secretary of Transportation at our offices on Sunday for a tour, and he's been a big supporter of Hyperloop as a concept and idea.
Yeah, we're not ruling anything out at all. I mean, we're starting those conversations now. We were kind of focused on developing the tech last year, and now we're starting to have those conversations.
When you look at the United States, what would be the likely location or the likely route if you were to just take all things together what's the most likely first route? It seems to me Vegas, like everybody loves going there. It's probably one of the most popular destinations. But maybe there's right-of-way issues, I'm not sure. And then obviously between our two cities, Los Angeles and San Francisco, that seems like a no-brainer. But the New York Northeast corridor is pretty dense. But wow, the people do take the Acela there. Yeah. What's the most likely first route in the United States?
Well, I know
or the top 3 or 4.
It's sexy to move people, but I really think moving freight is going to be a near-term opportunity.
Okay, so give me the first likely freight and the first likely humans. What's your short list of the top 3 for each of those categories?
Ideally, on the people side, but it would also include cargo. If you could do the concept of bring Amtrak to the 21st century, then that gets pretty interesting because you can build on existing right-of-ways. The California high-speed rail, it would be great to disrupt that. I mean, that was Elon's goal with the idea.
Is it possible, or is that train left the station?
I don't know if Gavin Newsom is in the crowd, but there he is. He's running for governor.
Hey, Gavin. I know you were here.
If a leader like him gets behind it, and other leaders in California get behind it, I think, one cool idea would be to do a referendum once we've done the Kitty Hawk moment and say to the citizens, hey, let's take the $70 billion, give it back to the citizens and put it into infrastructure in schools, and then replace it with a $15 to $20 billion Hyperloop that's a lot faster.
The tech is going to be ready, so it's going to be up to the policymakers to really help us figure out where to deploy it.
So this is the master plan. Yeah. You guys are going to get them to do a referendum, and then you're going to replace the high-speed rail in California.
That's one.
We're just inventing Hyperloop,
And you just happen to have Gavin Newsom sitting in seat 1 of row. Just happens to be here. This is awesome, Shervin. I had no idea that you had this level of plan. What's Obama going to do after he gets out? You're his counsel in many ways. Do you think he's going to? This is rumor. Maybe he'll be a venture capitalist or something. He's going to just do on the speaking circuit. What are the top 2 or 3 things Obama would do when he gets out?
I don't know specific details, but I'm very excited. He's a very young president, and so you've got decades ahead.
Would he make a good venture capitalist?
No, I think he's beyond any of that. I think he's the idea of him kind of fundamentally continuing to change the world with him and Michelle, going around the world and doing interesting. I mean, Carter was not a great president, but he had a great post-presidency. Obama's been a great president, and I think he's going to have an even greater post-presidency, so I'm excited to see what he does.
And if he's listening, I'd like to say we do have job openings on the website. He's welcome to apply.
Could be the chairman of...
he has to pass a test before he's allowed to submit a resume. But,
I think he'll do fine. So let's talk about the election while I have you here, Shervin.
Aren't you going to run for president, Jason?
No, definitely not. I think you're the one who would do that.
Now that Trump is out there,
we both lost the weight, so you got Gavin Newsom. Like we can catch up with him. He's a handsome guy. You are going to back Hillary.
Yeah.
You're going to help her. You're going to be a super. What do they call you guys who do the super fundraising? Super fundraisers. What do they call that?
I don't know.
There's a term for it.
Shervin is what's called.
Supporter, fan.
What's it called when you're like the mega supporter and you bring all the other donors together?
I have no idea.
Okay, you're going to do that for Hillary? Are you going to be hosting all the lunches and everything?
Of course. I mean, I think she's the most prepared candidate in American history to be president. I mean, Secretary of State, Senator, First Lady, all of the activism she's done for 40 plus years. She's incredible on her own rights, and it's not a female-male thing in any way. It's a human thing. She is an incredible human leader, and and we're at the precipice of one of the. If Trump becomes and looks likely that he is going to be the Republican candidate. That's for me personally, it's a scary moment in American history because this is the result of our kind of worship of celebrity and wealth, culminating in this bastard child of Trump, and that is really dangerous because I want to do everything possible to have Hillary become president. If that doesn't happen and Trump becomes president, I think we're looking at many situations that we've seen in other countries. Berlusconi, as an example, was, what he did to Italy. He was a corrupt, billionaire who has very similar types of traits to Trump, and he hurt the Italian economy and he hurt his nation in a pretty bad way. And there's worse examples of other types of leaders of that kind of personality.
I'm curious your take, though, Shervin. Do you think he was serious about running for president, or this thing just got out of control?
I think he's extremely serious. Like,
it's not a joke anymore.
You don't get this far in an election without actually, it doesn't start as a joke. You got to really take it seriously. And his ego believes that he is going to be president. He's close.
It's a scary moment.
Yeah.
All right, listen, we're all rooting for you. We all want the Hyperloop to become a reality. Hopefully Gavin gets in office and we can start to this referendum. I love this idea of stopping this huge $70 billion blunder that this state is going to make. And this is one of the great things, is we have the power to do these referendums, and maybe we can actually do something positive with our system here in California. So let's have a big round of applause for the Hyperloop team. Well done. That was awesome. Thank you for working on it.
Yeah.